Shall we begin, Geeta?
Yes, I think we should start. It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. A very good evening to everyone, and welcome to yet another session of Talking Films online. For many people who have joined us for the first time this week, Talking Films Online is, as it suggests in its name, an online discussion forum. We began this forum in June 2020 after Geeta Vishwanath here inspired us in the course of a Facebook discussion to think of an online film club or a discussion group um, so that we can all meet at a given time to talk about a pre-decided film. Since then, we have been meeting every Saturday at 9 p.m. Every week. So we haven't stopped at all. So every week, and we've been discussing films. Most of the times, the films are suggested to us by the people whom we invite to our forum. This week, we have just, all of us just watched this wonderful film directed by Sharad Raj, BETUKE ADMI ki AFRAH RATEIN, a 2019 release. And I should place on record my sincere thanks to Sharad Raj for making the film available for TFO members to watch, so that they can watch this film for free and join the discussion. Also, thank you, Sharad Raj, for joining the discussion today. He suggested that Monish Das be invited to initiate discussion. I think Monish had already written about the film, so who better than him to lead a discussion of the film? But there was also a lot of groundwork before Sharad Raj and Monish could come on board. It was Sanjay Kumar, my colleague in the English and Foreign Languages University, who told me first about this film and put me in touch with Vandana Kumar, I think, who has just joined us now. So there's a long list of people whom we have to thank for making possible today's discussion. About Monish Das, who will initiate the discussion today. Monish K. Das is an alumnus of FTII with editing specialization, diploma in social communication from United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, Rome, Italy. He has edited and directed numerous documentaries and educational films for corporate organizations like Tata Steel, Tata Tea, and so on. He's an ex-professor in the Department of Direction, Roop Kala Kendra, and Audiovisual Institute of West Bengal Government, and also visiting faculty at SRF TI Kolkata, Roop Kala Kendra, and NHSM Knowledge Campus, both in Kolkata. He also writes cinema-related articles on websites like Upper Stall, Just Cinema, and The Daily Eye. On behalf of TFO, very warm welcome, Monish Das, to Talking Films Online. Sharad Raj, I'll also introduce Sharad right away. Sharad Raj has produced and directed this independent feature film, Ek Betuke Admi ki AFRAH RATEIN. And he has written and directed two telefilms, Ek Thi Maria and Ward Number 6. He has over 20 years experience in identifying, producing high quality TV programs, and a proven track record of successfully building projects from concept to telecast. This includes working with production houses and broadcasters. He was an integral member of the core team of ZTV and one of the two Indian consultants for Channel 9. He has conceptualized and launched more than 20 soap operas, achieving commercial success and critical acclaim. He's a senior faculty at Whistling Woods International and creative consultant for web content with BAG Films, Mumbai. He was head of programming and content Sahara One in 2013-14. He's a creative director whose concepts have been major shows across channels like Kumkum, Koi Jane Na, Vivah Jane Kya Baat Hui, and so on. He has developed critically acclaimed and several critically acclaimed and award-winning shows like Siddhant, Rihai, and so on, and telefilms like Tukaram Omble and Neeraj Bhano. After his diploma in mass communication Delhi, he received a diploma in FTII in film direction and a diploma in screenwriting from NFA New York. So welcome Sharad Raj to Talking Films Online. Welcome to everyone who has joined the discussion today. And over to you, Monish Das, for your opening comments and presentation on the film.
Thank you all the members of TFO and especially Nikhila for giving me the opportunity to introduce this film, Ek Betuke Admi Ki AFRAH Ratein, which is made by Sharad, who is actually a batchmate of mine from the Film Institute of India, and we've been friends and we've been interacting on cinema for quite a long time, and especially now through social media and all. And both of us also, along with a friend of ours, we run a Facebook page called Just Cinema, which also has a website. Anyway, thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Now, to talk about Ek Betuke Admi Ki AFRAH Ratein, I'd like to use two words, key words. The one is it's a personal film, and secondly, it's an independent film. And these two concepts, personal and independent, are meshed together both in the making of the film, the form of the film, and also the characters which inhabit the film. Now, why it's personal? Because Sharad, what is the main core of the film, is personal in the sense he's from Uttar Pradesh. He's very rooted in the culture and the society of Uttar Pradesh and Lucknow and the area. So what happened during 2000, during the Muzaffarnagar and all these riots, deeply disturbed him, and he kind of, in a way, tried to come out with his feelings and concepts about the riot and its problems and the country now. That's one, the personal equation of the director himself. And because it's such a personal film, and the form that such a film demands, had pushed him to fund or make the film in a process which is independent outside the commercial networks of filmmaking, production, distribution, and all. So these are in terms of first points of personal and independence. The second point of personal and independent is the total form of the film. That is the way the story of the film is told, the characters are developed. This is also personal and independent in the sense this is again a form which is not in sync at all with the mainstream cinema presentation. Here is a film which doesn't tell things, tries to show things and asks the audience to make connections and come out with an experience. The third point about personal is that the characters involved in this film, they all go through a certain personal journey, which of course all characters in films do. I mean, heroes and the protagonists and all, they go through a certain journey and they come to a certain point of realization. Point is that the stories, the personal stories of these characters actually assume a much greater dimension in the film. That in the sense, these characters, main two protagonists, Gulmohar and Gomti especially, and to a certain extent Anita Muslim, they characterize their certain archetype figures in a way for me, I think, because each of them signify a certain kind of reaction to the social, economic, and all the turmoil that is going on in the country at present, that happened in Uttar Pradesh at a certain point of time, and the consequences they go through of those personal experiences and the social experiences are told in this story. So, I mean, this is another again point of personal and now being a very personal film also. The filmmakers' own thinking about cinema, the filmmakers is being influenced by, or the forms and the mise-en-scene of filmmakers he has internalized also are reflected in them. In what sense? First of all, here because the characters represent a certain universal and a certain more greater, something beyond what they are in this film is basically not so plotted. It doesn't work on plot points and twists of tail in the plotting or creating suspense. That's not. It assumes a form of a kind of a not really a straight linear narrative, a classical narrative as we see in many films, of a certain way of storytelling, 3-act structures or 5-act structures, whatever you call it. So what this kind of storytelling perhaps is closer to what Monish K had defined or termed as epic film, where the characters and the story they tell actually are loose. They're not that connected in that sense. But overall, they tell a bigger story than what they actually present on screen in a very straightforward way. And these are the connections which audience has to make. So Sharad is in a way asking the audience to work and create their own narratives also, and trying to relate the film with their personal experiences, their ideologies, and come out with whether they like the film or not, whether they enjoy the film or not, or whether the film is challenging or not, or they might even say this film is absolutely, I mean, it makes no sense. It's not an imposition. It's more of a questioning. He's trying to ask, he's trying to inform. So to do that, of course, we have to talk about the form of how the film is being made or how the film is being constructed. So first of all, you'll notice, as I said earlier, this is not plotted character development, this, that, and story goes on a certain way. You expect a climax and stuff like that. That is not. Secondly, also, if you see the way the film is made, constructed visually and audiovisually, is he's using what we call a kind of a unified mise-en-scene. Now, unified mise-en-shot. That is, a particular scene is, it can be a static camera or a moving camera, is shot in a single shot. Like you see the dance sequence over the dance. That's mainly a single shot sequence, perhaps with a couple of very functional cuts. Then again, the last shot of the film. You see this Gulmohar coming out and all. You see the camera creeping up, and then actually it fades. But in many other films, if you see, there might be some cuts, cuts to the close-up to show the reaction of the character or certain other things, or to, manipulate time. Sharad's film, in most of the cases, is using the mise-en-shot, which is again the unified mise-en-scene, and also it's trying to capture a time image, an image where the narrative is told through time. It's not manipulated. It's not edited, manipulated, or the viewer is not asked to, or he's not playing tricks with that. Now, of course, you can debate whether a unified mise-en-scene is also, whether it's reality or whether it's not manipulated. Of course, it is manipulated. In cinema, everything is manipulated. The very fact that you just place a camera and even if you walk away, take a shot, it's not really capturing the reality, because the lens will give you a certain restricted. Now, if you leave the camera with a 50mm lens, you get a certain image. If the image is 150, the image will change. So there is always manipulation in a film. But he is trying to, not manipulate through editing, to make juxtapositions or to make associations with it. The editing and the film is just constructed through a flow. So that is another, I think, thing to look out and very interesting in the film. And again, which is not really practiced in general in film styles in our country and even in other countries. The third point, or the other point, again, which is personal for the filmmaker, in a sense, that the internalization of other films. Now, as we know, this story, there are three stories. He's taken themes and threads of three stories, two by Dostoevsky and Premchand's School. Now, one of the Dostoevsky stories is adapted, Four Nights of a Dreamer. That has been actually made into cinema by two masters, great masters of cinema. Luchino Visconti, who made White Nights, starring Marcello Mastroianni, and Robert Bresson, who made Four Nights of a Dreamer. And of course, both are very different aesthetically and very different in the form. Bresson, Visconti's is a grand romantic opera with, very operatic lighting and movements, Mastroianni acting out and stuff like that. And Bresson's is definitely Bresson's. The melodrama is much less. It's based on Paris, young people of Paris, and all this. And of course, there's no grand operatic style. Though for many people, they would say Four Nights of a Dreamer is perhaps Bresson's most romantic and, in a way, one of the most gentlest films. Now, in Sharad's film, of course, he's not copying Bresson. He's not copying Visconti. But you'll see certain things, like the acting style of the. Again, here the actors are not emoting. They're not playing out characters. They try to be the characters themselves. I mean, by their looks, by the way they look, by their eyes movements, by their facial gestures, by the production design of the film, where they're placed, stuff like that. These speaks volumes. And this kind of, non-melodramatic, non-expressive, non-emotive acting is definitely comes from the tradition of Bresson, which he calls models. And of course, Sharad actors, they're not really models in the sense of Bresson, but they tend close to that, ideal of an actor. Not being an actor, but being the character itself. And making an internal journey to the character and asking the viewers to go through that internal journey. And so thereby not emoting, expressing, or doing dramatic gestures. Another point here is, you see, to make this film, Sharad has also integrated and certain other filmmakers. Of course, there's Hrithik Ghatam. And Hrithik is very important in this film because of the partition and the displacement act, which Anita Muslim goes through. That, and perhaps one of the greatest, filmmakers of portrayal of displacement and refugee status and the violence of that happens, and all is Hrithik Ghatam. So obviously, Sharad, when he's talking about the tragedy, quote unquote, of Anita Muslim, and the partition of Bengal and partition of India, he's again referenced to it, which is again, a very cinematic way, and he has done it very cinematic. And of course, he's used the recitation of the Tagore song, which is used in the film, in a Hindi film, which is again something very innovative in terms of sound and way things are placed. Again, there is little reference to another filmmaker who's talking about, memories, talking about displacement, talking about lost love, which again is another theme, Gulmohar's problem, or Gulmohar's thing, is Alarena, Hiroshima Mon Amour, to be more specific. I mean, in Hiroshima, there's this famous dialogue. I know you know nothing about Hiroshima. And in Sharad comes out, Tum dange ke baare mein kya jante? So that's another very interesting, I think, aspect of him. How he's not really, copied styles or, not given very facile kind of tributes or quotes, but actually use certain aspects or certain points of these great filmmakers to tell his own story and tell the story of his characters. So all these, elements he's tried to thread to. At some point, maybe you will not find it. He's maybe succeeded at certain points. He's not. But again, this for me is a very, very interesting and extremely daring effort to make. It's personal, political, and very, very formally challenged. So these are the little words I'd like to speak and open the forum for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monish, for opening out this discussion to many dimensions which some of us might not have. Especially the personal context and how it's a personal film for him, as much as we read it in terms of its larger politics. If anyone wants to come in at this point in time to respond to the film or to Monish's initial remarks, you're most welcome. Please unmute yourself. Yes, Geeta, please go ahead.
Thank you, Nikhila. And thank you, Monish, for your introduction. And a special thanks to the filmmaker for making available your film for all of us. And I would also like to say that Nikhila and I, as co-founders of TFO, are extremely happy today to see a lot of new participants in this discussion. We haven't met before. Welcome to each one of you. And we really hope that you continue to log in every Saturday, 9 p.m. to participate in the discussions. We usually have very interesting films to talk about. I'm glad that Monish brought up this question of the style in the film, because that was also something that struck me. And I was interested in asking Sharad whether, he had a deliberate plan on how to, direct the actors and make them act. Monish said that, they are not melodramatic and they do not emote. But I found it, not emoting to the extent of being, like wooden and expressionless. So initially I thought perhaps, these are new actors. But when I saw an established actor like, Adil Hussain, who plays the role of the father, himself also acting in this particular style, I thought possibly there is, some rationale for the way this has been planned by the director. And another point I would like to make is about the narrative pace. Of course, it is, largely a slow-paced film. But one particular scene in which, Gomti is rescued by the police, the pace at that point is just a little bit short of, slow motion. So I was curious to know why, you chose this really slow pace, because it looked like she was, almost being taken in a procession with several, onlookers from the neighborhood around her. So what could be the reason for your choice of this kind of pace for this scene? And about the narrative gap, as a writer, I understand that sometimes, we wish to leave certain things to the imagination of the reader. and in this case, of course, the viewer. But when it involves a gap that is so wide that it actually requires a leap of faith, then at least for me, it caused a little bit of confusion. I'm referring specifically to the scene in which, Gomti is tied up by the father to the bed, and the doors are all sealed. And then it quickly shifts to the scene in which, she is rescued by the police. So it kind of, I found that a bit jarring, and I kept, and it was more about, curiosity on my part, like how did she actually manage to, free herself, or, call the police? And so this gap kind of, jarred for me. And lastly, I wanted to say, the father, played by Adil Hussain, he says he wants to create a Jatav universe. And he draws, at the same time, he draws on the Brahma Saraswati myth. And I'm not too sure if someone who wanted to create a distinct Dalit identity would want to draw on myths of mainstream Hindu gods, because that's the whole crux of the, as we know, the Gandhi Ambedkar debate as well, in which Ambedkar believes that a Dalit identity cannot be created except outside of the Hindu religion. So these were some of the thoughts when I was watching the film, but it's an extremely interesting film. The fact that it posed so many questions to me, is itself, I guess, indicative of the fact that it engaged my mind. Thank you, Sharad, and thank you, Monish.
Thank you very much, Geeta, for the questions. Sharad, sorry, I didn't notice you had raised your hand. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to thank Monish, because when I hear about my film from him, I kind of seem to know my film a lot better, because it kind of comes from an objective space and not from my own inner self. So yes, thank you so much, Monish, and there could have been a little introduction. And thank you, Nicola, and thank you, TFO, Geeta, and everybody, Sanjay, who apparently saw the film first before he recommended. So thank you, all of you, and thank you, all those of you who joined us for this discussion. This is indeed humbling and a pleasure. Now, if I may, Nicola, I can answer Geeta's questions one by one.
Sure.
Okay, so, Geeta, in terms of briefing the actors, and this is something I've done with my second film also, I keep it very simple. I may be drawing from various traditions, as Monish pointed out, and I cannot deny that at all. But for my own working relationship with my actors, it is like, if you're picking up a glass, or you're smoking, or you're sleeping, I can see that. So please do not underline it by dramatizing it or saying, oh my God, don't come to me with questions like, is it for the first time that I'm having a Coca-Cola bottle, a Coca-Cola drink? Is it for the first time that I'm sitting in a car? Don't come with me with those questions, because they're irrelevant in my scheme of things. They could be very relevant in another school of acting, but not when you are having a Coca-Cola bottle. You're having a drink which is Coca-Cola, and my narrative itself will tell whether it's for the first time or what is the narrative significance of that action. So you should not be underlining it by performing that, okay, this is the first time I am sitting in an air-conditioned SUV. I can see that you're sitting. I can see from your clothes, your production design, the way you've been styled, that you belong to the world of SUV or you do not belong to the world. Let me arrive at that conclusion. Do not tell that to the audience. So I really keep it very simple, and I don't. So the moment element of drama or anything that comes into their performance, it to me amounts to underlining what is obvious. So we may as well underline things or try to communicate those aspects which are not so obvious, rather than just, obviously communicating that, oh my God, I'm so sad, my mother died, or XYZ happened, or so on and so forth. So that's my approach towards acting. And some of them have got it bang on. Some of them are a little left or right of that brief. I will have to accept that, but I broadly keep it that just do the action the camera is catching. I'll also narrate a very interesting thing that I learned from Nasir. While at the Film Institute, you'd be all shocked to know that Shakti Kapoor was considered a better actor than Nasiruddin Shah, because Nasiruddin Shah came with this baggage of theatre. And whenever the professor, Roshan Taneja, would tell him to walk from point A to point B, he had this baggage of questions which he had to answer or ask himself before he could do that, and thereby spoiling the walk and making it very dramatic and theatrical, as in drama. Whereas Shakti Kapoor would just get up and walk. It's simple for him to walk from point A to point B. And for the longest period, Nasir said, I couldn't figure out where I was going wrong. And then I realized that I am doing the wrong thing in the wrong medium, and I just need to get up and walk and declutter my mind. So yes, I tell my actors that declutter your mind, know your script. All my actors know every character's story, every character's characterization, the big picture. A lot of makers say that tell the actor only what he or she is doing. I don't do that. I tell the actors everything about the film. How will I make it? How will I shoot it? Now they tell me, what do I do? How do I do this? I say, I will not come and tell you that, and on the count of 3, get up. On the count of 4, take the first step forward. It has to be more organic. You are performing at that point in time. So I'm writing the script now. You're going to be enacting it 6 months from now, right? And at that point, in real space, and not while you're rehearsing in my house, in real space, how you're going to feel while getting up and walking or taking a cup of tea is entirely up to you. And I am no one to suggest you, unless it's horribly wrong or it's going to spoil my scene. I'm not going to tell you, no, you got to be, at the count of 2, the tea has to be sipped. It doesn't make a difference to me whether you sip it at the count of 2 or 4, because it is organic. As Monish said, it's capturing the flow of time. And it often happens that we have a cup of tea and we don't drink it for the longest period. So we don't drink it. And that's how I tend to, that is how I approached all my actors in this. Feel what you're doing, however which way you're feeling at that point in time. Whatever is your rhythm telling you to do it accordingly. If it is completely a cross purpose of the rhythm that I'm expecting from my film, I will correct you. If it is not, then I will not. It's okay. So what happens in this, Geeta, is that you get surprises. Your actors tend to surprise you all. They could be, I've worked with Rifan, I've worked with Raghuveer, Yadav, KK, all of, they can just surprise you. And there are newcomers, as you see in this film, even they tend to surprise you because they themselves don't know how they are going to be acting out a particular action in a given scene. So that is, if I hope I've answered your question broadly as to how I approach it. I don't see why an actor should be duplicating what the camera is already doing. And for me, an actor is a part of the larger image and a part of the larger mise-en-scene, as Monish said, and not, it's not actor-centric. If I do an actor-centric film, then my actor will perform. So it's not about good or bad or right or wrong. It's just my cinema. And if that means that in some way I'm drawing inspiration from the song, then maybe I am. That's something Monish has pointed out. Yeah, perhaps, yes. But yeah, so that is that. Your second question was on elliptical, on certain ellipses that I have taken. Yes, I have. And you do see the father's suicide there, the hand. But yes, I would agree that I think I've gone a little too obscure at that point in time. To be honest, you even Adil, that's one point. That's one part that even Adil, whose hand is there in the shot, said, I just couldn't connect immediately. So perhaps it's a case of being a bit too obscure. But in my mind, it is clear that she is kind of enslaved, and then the father is probably haunted by guilt, and he commits suicide. And that's when, like I heard this is the case in Bombay. I've heard a few cases in my hometown where these daughters have been, you know, closed in a room for months, and they have come out as skeletons, you know, and then the neighbors break through, and the cops, they call the cops. So that's how the cops and all came. As far as the slow-mo part of the work, well, it is, you know, just imagine being tied for 4 weeks or 5 weeks of your life. And that's what I told the actor, Archana. And there's so many people, there is embarrassment, there is complete demolition of self-esteem, prestige, everything, you know. There is really nothing left in her till she finds love in the ashram, in the women's home that she goes. So yeah, perhaps that is what is there. So that is, you know, trying to walk and, you know, trying to comprehend, and you're all of a sudden, from complete seclusion, you're surrounded by this bevy of neighbor people from the neighborhood. So that is what it is. Uh, uh, Now coming to the thing is that if you know the politics of UP, and Jativ is also the party of Mayawati, and that's a vote bank, that's a constituency. Their immediate preoccupation is Brahminical acceptance. You know, and someone no less a scholar I personally revere a lot, Professor Apurvanand, told me, and I had a long discussion with him, and he said, you know, Sharad, for a Dalit, it's much more important. Brahminical acceptance is a lot more important than secularism. So they will go for that, and that's been Mayawati's politics of late. I mean, it's very facile to say that the enforcement directorate is holding her back. You know, there is a inherent thing in amongst particularly the Jataf community of Uttar Pradesh, to get Brahminical accept. And here I'm talking about usurping those very Vedic gods, you know, and making them their own. You know, so that is what it is. It's also, if you look at it from a Brahminical point of view, it is kind of, you know, bringing down the gods, and also I'm kind of, you know, not only interpreting Brahma and Saraswati as Vedic gods, but as gods of creation. And in the eyes of creation, I would like to believe if there is a divine power that is creating, it has to be absolutely equal to everybody. So why not that? And obviously the whole myth of Brahma trying to molest Saraswati or rape her or woo her goes in tandem with Adil's desire for his adopted daughter. So that is what it is, you know, basically that I will take these gods and I will kind of make them my own world. And there is since Monish was talking about references, there's another very favorite filmmaker of mine called Werner Herzog, who, you know, in Agili, the Wrath of God, he talks about, you know, the purity of race will happen when father and daughter cohabit. You know, that's how purity. So, you know, there are various angles to it. Now, whether it's the purity of the Aryan race or the Dalits in it, or the purity of the Dalit race, or is there something called purity, or is it your God or my God kind of a thing? So it's somewhere in those gray zones and crevices that are in between, and not like, you know, okay, I'm an Ambedkarite or I'm a Gandhian or I will become a convert or I'm a Buddhist. There's also a photograph of Redas outside Adil's shop, which even Manikal uses in Uski Roti, I think. I'm not sure, but that's there. So they are chamars, and I'm sorry to say, but that is what they are, and somewhere that thing is there of how do I take over this operation by capturing the gods, by capturing their gods, and as opposed to, you know, getting out of it. I think the Dalit discourse is far more complex than the times of Ambedkar. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else who wants to come in now?
I'd like to make a just small point again about the film.
Sure.
As I said earlier, and Sharad also mentioned, the film basically works on the concept of unified mise-en-scene and mise-en-shots. But you see, there's another, in certain parts, another interesting formality to the film is that whenever there is intrusion of external reality, then you see very, you know, harshly cut footages of documentaries and stuff like that. So that the intrusion of the reality or the externality into the characters' lives and how it creates issues, problems of that there is a kind of a formal clash between two styles at certain points, which is, I think, a very deliberate choice. The mixing of footages. You see, there are certain points, Muzaffarnagar riots and all, those are very documentary-like footages, and the edit pattern there is also very different, more jerkier, more, the cuts are more abrasive in that sense. So this is, again, a very interesting combination of two certain forms for a specific purpose of narration and creating a kind of a kind of a contradictory force with each other. That's a little observation again about the form. Externality and internality, the clash, how it is portrayed.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to come in now? While people are collecting their thoughts, because it's not an easy film for them to talk about, I just want to share a couple of my own views on the film. I found, the way I read the characterization of the film, and also the general anti-realist style of the film, I thought the characterization, the mise-en-scène, bereft of, most people around. There's just the light when they sit on the bench. The way I looked at it is that it's almost like did it really happen? A kind of a almost a dream-like. It mimics the dream-like state of the character. So did he actually meet? Did this really take place? So it seemed more things are happening at a mythopoetic level than at a realist level, even when the narrative is taken into, like Muzaffarnagar. So we are told, for instance, that Anita introduces, introduces Muzaffarnagar, but we don't really get an introduction to Muzaffarnagar. So that's not really the concern of the filmmaker to kind of take us on a tour of Lucknow or Muzaffarnagar. So that's not so. I mean, all that I'm saying is that unlike many Hindi films which want to locate the characters in a realist milieu, bring in a particular kind of language that is spoken there to kind of give us a sense of that milieu. I found this film not trying to do that. So even as it takes its narrative to places which are not often seen in cinema, it's not attempting to do it at a realist level. So I found that very, very fascinating. Also, the costuming of the characters. They may be on the road, they may have very traumatic personal histories. They almost seem ethereal and fairy-like, So I thought that was also wonderfully done. And so all the time it is calling out to us to look at these characters not at a realist level, or respond to them not at a realist level, but almost as mythicized figures. And the way I read some of the gaps that Geeta was referring to, I mean, it sounds a little funny. Yesterday, I wasn't feeling very well. I had a dolo just before I watched a major part of the film. So what I thought was, probably I must have dozed off. So when there is a gap between point A and point B, it's only now that that I realize what Geeta is saying, that there was actually a gap. I thought that maybe I must have missed it or missed the reason, the causality. But I think after listening to Monish, I realized that giving us a sense of causality is not really the concern, or at least not in a facile way. So giving us that this happened because of this is not something we actually get to see in the narrative. Also, I liked very much the last part of the film. Again, so much is told without really telling us much. The way the child is taken from the school, Anita's son is taken from the school. So it's not about just a catharsis of sharing, but also a kind of real attempt at undoing certain, or not undoing so much as living up to the consequences of one's actions. So I found that very, very some of those aspects very moving in the film. So thank you very much, Sharad, for making this film.
Thank you, Nicola, for having me over, and thank you for your kind words and discerning viewing of the film. And I'm glad you didn't have to take a dolo after watching the film. So that sounds good.
Anyone else would like to come in now?
Yeah, what I liked about the film is that it captures the city, the character of the city, and though it's changed and all that kind of thing, and I haven't been there more than once, but I thought that it was quite well done over there. Also, I want to ask about this shutting of the shoe shop, right? There's a repetition of that so many times that you can't not get it, right? And what exactly is it doing, right? So I just was curious about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, yes, it's my city, and I think it's extremely obscene the way it looks these days. It's a city I grew up. My wife, my entire family worked all their lives, but there is so much a mixing of mediums and forms in the city that one finds it difficult to relate to it often, especially when I go back to my hometown. And so, yes, I mean, thank you. That's a very valid point. Yes, I wanted to, especially in the scene in the market where the two lovers meet, Gulmohar and Gomti. The idea was to capture this continuously changing sort of, in your face, obscene kind of an environment which is so unaesthetic from in a city which is known for its so-called culture within quotes and all of that. Now coming to your other question, that the shutting of the door is basically emphasizing on the rigmarole and the daily routine, and how the daily routine is disrupted. A man who goes to a shop every day probably sells 5, 6, 8 shoes and pair of shoes and then comes back, is kind of disrupted by this bewitching adopted daughter of his. So it shatters that routine. So it's basically just a way of communicating rigmarole in someone's life who's leading a very ordinary everyday life, but has and gives a very extraordinary experience, both to his daughter, so-called daughter, and himself.
Anyone else would like to speak now?
So, Nicola, what do you think? The story really happened, or the story didn't happen? It's not a spoiler.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jayanto, would you like to come in? Jayanto or Sanjay, anyone would like to come in now? Yeah, Sanjay, please go ahead.
First, just the debate around the creation, the myth of creation. That am I audible enough?
Yeah, sorry, Sanjay, I just missed you on that.
Missed you.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the myth of creation, as here we have Brahma and Saraswati. Am I audible enough? I don't know.
You sound a little muffled. Your voice is a little muffled.
I will try later then. Let someone speak.
Okay. someone else wants to come in now so that he can fix his audio problems and they can fix his audio problems. Tarakeshwar, do you want to come in? Hello. Jayanto, Tarakeshwar, do you want to come in or anyone else? Please unmute yourself so that I know you want to speak. Yeah, Jayanto, please go ahead.
Okay, I don't really have a question or an observation, except that, I am told that these are also, I mean, no matter the dreamlike nature of the film and the film being kind of located in a kind of negation of reality of any kind, these three are adaptations also. These are adaptations also. And if one of the stories from which it has been adapted is the ridiculous man, the dream of the ridiculous man, Dostoevsky, I find maybe, I mean, that's entirely the freedom of the filmmaker as to what extent, how loosely or otherwise he or she would decide to, differ or deviate from the original. One thing, this character of Gulmohar, I mean, the very fact that you've given him such a heavy sounding name, it gives him a certain kind of weightage which a ridiculous man will not have. And the story, I mean, Dostoevsky's short story begins with that I believe I'm a ridiculous man. But on the other hand, we find, Gulmohar has been sort of given a sort of a gravitas, a sort of a grandeur, the way he looks. And was that intentional? I mean, the very fact that you've chosen someone who looks like the way the protagonist, the hero, does here in this film, I think that you're trying to say something. But then again, it's entirely my imagination, because betuka insan is not necessarily the ridiculous man. Betuka could be anything like inappropriate, and there is a certain amount of inappropriateness in his desires, in his actions, and things like that. That's one thing. That's probably the only thing that I want to say, because if I look at the protagonist, the main character here, one thing he will not appear to me is ridiculous, or betuka in that sense, I mean, people do give in to their desires, people go about life in a haphazard manner, but that could be one, that's also a kind of a prerogative which many privileged people, they exercise for themselves, and the protagonist here could be one of them, So I'm really wondering, to what extent is he betuka? To what extent is he a ridiculous man? That's one thing. And the second is a totally unrelated question. Is the place where the two lovers meet on the bench, is it Aminabad Park? I have spent my childhood in Lucknow and I haven't gone back there in a very long time. So I felt very nostalgic. It is not? It is
It's
not.
not Aminabad, it's Janpat Market, Hazratganj. Okay, you want me to respond to your first part?
If you feel like it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so yes, it's not a literal adaptation for sure. That's one thing. Clear. I mean, I've changed a whole lot of things, in that there is tuberculosis and there is a medical emergency to which the character doesn't respond, and thereby leading to his guilt. Now that of course is irrelevant, because largely tuberculosis has a cure and it's no longer life-threatening, at least. So that is there. So that's something that has been replaced by a communal threat. That's one thing. Now, in terms of the way I mean, of course, ridiculous in Dostoevsky's context is absurdity. There is an element of no tuk or betuk in the way Gulmohar leads his life. Yeah, to me, there is, because he's a photo studio owner. He's completely unmotivated to run that. His father something probably he obviously inherited from his father, and he's going through the motions of life. And actually, none of his actions, which is largely drinking, watching television, or watching a cricket match, or going to a sex work, that's his larger. So there is no, in terms of saying there's a goal or something I want to achieve, or something which is reasonable that I want to do, which can be reasoned that okay, this is what I want to do. I want to convert my photo studio into something else, or go into video or films or whatever. ऐसा कुछ है नहीं उसका. So it's like pretty aimless, pretty to that extent, not in the gigantic or a deeper extent the way Dostoevsky does it, but to that extent, yes, he is. I mean, just to that extent that he is. And therefore, his dress, his costume, which is black throughout the film, only to suggest that he either doesn't change or he doesn't care about that, and his long hair and slightly unkempt. He's a fairly decent looking guy, so maybe he looks that way. But otherwise, it's like okay, he's someone who's just carrying the burden of his existence, and in that, once he gets habituated to a particular sex worker, which is Anita Muslim, when the time comes, he refrains. He doesn't have the gumption to go and intervene. So it's just to that extent. And no, I'm certainly not following the entire existential absurdity. It's more at the level of aimlessness than absurdity as understood in the philosophical context.
Okay. Sanjay, you're back?
Yeah. Am I audible enough now?
Yes,
Yeah, you are.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about the myth of creation, that in all the civilizations, people have to come to terms with the origin of human species. So somehow they invent some story, some myth. And like in Greek mythology, we have Gaia. There also, there is mother goddess, and who has her son Uranus, and the lust of Uranus has been shown in the myth. And because of that, he is also punished by his children, his own children. So there we have this sexual relation between the mother and the son, that is Gaia and Uranus. Here, there is a very inventive use of this, again, the myth of creation, that is Brahma and Saraswati. I liked it because in that part of the story has been adapted from Bhoot, the story of Premchand, the life of this Gomati. So like in what happens in Bhoot of Premchand, that this is mother-in-law who initiates actually the discussion around the marriage after the death of his wife. So, and there are some reasons in the story of Premchand where she thinks that, once she is married to someone else, the stepdaughter is married to someone else, then their relationship will finally vanish, and she will not have anything to gain. So this mother-in-law is the one who actually initiates the discussion. So finally, the question comes, which I would like to hear from the director, that what prompted him to like make that change here. Of course, it is inventive, and it's, of course, I like this idea because that brings into several other issues which are quite fascinating. So it is not the father. Here in the film, we see that the father goes to convince the mother-in-law and says that, you convince her. And she says, okay, I'll convince her for this marriage. Whereas in the story of Premchand, it is the mother-in-law who initiates, though he goes, and of course he wants to marry, but he doesn't say it directly, and he goes to his in-laws, and it is the mother-in-law who initiates the discussion. So that is one thing. Next, about the adaptation. So like in the dream of ridiculous man of Dostoevsky, you have first the feeling of guilt there because I mean the protagonist is a like aimless or ridiculous. He says himself that I am a ridiculous person in the beginning of the story. People call me mad, and so he doesn't have any purpose in life. He is very indifferent to whatever is happening around him. He feels very disengaged, and it doesn't matter whatever happens in this life. Life is absurd like that. But by the end of the story, he is committed in the sense because that single incident in the story of Dostoevsky, that he comes across this little girl who is asking him for help, but he doesn't care. He says, you know, go away to someone else. And so here, like, you know, there is first the feeling of guilt, as in the story of Dostoevsky, and then the redemption happens later in the story. There also that he finally feels that, you know, there is some kind of attachment. He feels there is some kind of attachment, that his life is connected to the life of others, which happens in this film. In this film also, you have by the end that the protagonist Gulmohar goes to this boy, and so it is suggested that he is the one who is financing the study of this boy finally, and he is protecting this boy. So that's a kind of redemption, the guilt. And the second story, like White Nights, that's I think the major part of the adaptation, at least when it comes to the relationship between Gulmohar and Gomati, comes from that story. So like in the story itself, the subtitle in the Dostoevsky story is a sentimental story. So here it is like a very, yeah, again, kind of complex love story. And the Gulmohar, he is not sure whether this girl will reciprocate, and finally, you know, he sacrifices his own feelings for the welfare of this girl. So it's like redemption for him. So that's an interesting parallel, an essential element which has been taken from that story. And yeah, that's all. And finally, the story of Premchand Bhoot. So that's the question. My question is that, you know, in general, and you can also respond to a particular adaptation of Premchand's story, that, you know, what kind of changes you wanted, like felt that it was desired, and, you know, which would make your adaptation more interesting, or more, which will complexify certain situations. So I would like to, I would like you to speak about this relationship between the stories on the one hand and the adaptation of those stories in the film. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay, for your question. Thank you so much. Okay, so if as far as I remember correctly, at this point in time, in the Premchand story, he gets bewitched by this sister-in-law stroke daughter of his, and he makes a trip to his mother-in-law, where they suggest something like this, and then the mother-in-law broaches the topic to the daughter, to her daughter. He sends the daughter away. The wedding, the engagement has happened. The wedding is postponed, and he buys time for the mother-in-law to talk to the daughter. So I have, in my view, I think it's pretty close to that, except that I don't get into the elaborate, you know, the mother-in-law. Of course, she must have spoken. That's why that cry from her when she gets to know and she heard and she kind of understands it. Probably she's just told her and left, and she kind of is completely shell shocked, which is also there in the story where she says, "Aap kya baat kar rahi hain?" You know, what will he say and what will he think? And she has no, she can't fathom why and what her mother has said. So her stepmother has said. So Sanjay, I remember it a bit differently. I could be wrong. Memory is not my greatest friend, but I think he goes to the mother. He goes to the mother-in-law to broach the topic. It may not be as direct as in the film. So the reason why it is more direct in the film is because I have added the element of the caste in it, and I somehow didn't feel that there is, and therefore, because I have made the character take refuge in mythic, in mythology, in gods. I didn't feel the need that he has to beat around the bush of it, because he goes to himself. He has justified it by saying that, if the creator can do that, so can I. And he positions himself as a creator, as a creator of a new race, which will be which will have the Jativs as the superior race. Coming from that point of view, I didn't feel that more than anything else, more than what I already have, I need to be faithful to the story. Uh, uh, Coming back to the idea of adaptations in general, for me, they give me a framework. There are views and views of filmmakers of all kinds, and some of them are great filmmakers on adaptations. But I'm just telling you about my personal view. For me, a story or a pre-existing work of literature gives a framework for me to operate, or to inject it, or to populate it with my own take on it, which will obviously be different because I'm a different person. Because also the story is being written in a different time and age. It is being written in a different cultural context. So a village of UP, which is like 100 years old, is now a small town or the capital of the city. It's not Russia. We are not in Petersburg. We are not in Moscow. We are in Muzaffarnagar. We are in Lucknow. All that has changed. Also, when we're talking about writers like Dostoevsky and all, I'm not a practicing Catholic, or a Christian. I do not have that kind of crisis of faith that Dostoevsky had, because he was a practicing Christian or not a practicing Christian, or his continuous duel with his own faith. I don't have that kind of faith. I'm a lot more. I'm more in a religious space than than Dostoevsky is. But the concept of guilt is universal because the crisis is moral. If you ask me personally, none of the things that we are seeing today or we've seen in the past, the crisis is not just political or social. The crisis is more moral and spiritual. And that's why there are artists and there are other statesmen who talk about spiritual revolution, and I somewhere tend to agree to them. So I take that part of the story, within which I can place my own conflict or own preoccupation or my own milieu, which is at this point in time the point in time is a certain kind of polarization, which kind of tends to bother me. So I have put that there instead of uh, you know tuberculosis or any medical ailment. It's again it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, there is medical science has advanced so much that even in a place like Muzaffarnagar, there are some very good hospitals. So that is one thing that I am readapting. And I also, in The Dream of a Ridiculous Man, his whole dream is of this very utopian place, where there's certain kinds of people and fantastical images and creatures kind of existing. But I kind of replaced it with love, with a love story. And yeah, so these kind of differences will happen, I guess. They're bound to happen because the times are different, the cultural milieu is different, and yes, the story strikes us, but that doesn't make it imperative on us to completely follow it. In fact, most filmmakers don't follow it. If you read, for example, if you read Ray's Mahanagar, if you read the story, and if you see the film, again, it's the basic framework that Ray has used. Otherwise, characterization, complexes, guilt, response, everything is changed in the film. Because literature is essentially abstract, and cinema, no matter how abstract a film is a physical medium. So there is a certain amount of physicality to it. So there are a lot of things that you can say or write in a novel or a story, but it may be extremely difficult to portray it in a limited work of art, and a novel that can be 500 pages, 1,000 pages, 100 pages, or a story that could be a novella of 80 pages or whatever. But a film generally is within up to 2 hours or within 3 hours. So that is there, and those compulsions are there, and you need to kind of physically show everything in a film. Even if it is abstract, you need to kind of externalize it in some way or the other. So yes, there will be departures, and there are always departures for the above mentioned reasons, in my view.
Sharad, may I just come in at this point and say that
Yeah.
when you're talking about this point of cinematic adaptation of novels and literature, of course, it's a grid, it's a framework where filmmakers put in their own things. And I think the adaptation is also a different process. Cinematic adaptation and a novel, there are basic differences because between the written word and a cinematic image. The written word has far more connotative meanings, than the cinematic image, which is basically denotative. So you have to, adapt the connotative aspects of a written text into the more dominant denotative mode of cinema. And that's why you make, changes, transpositions, you form your own narrative when you have to do it successfully, which Ray did, which many other filmmakers did. Ray, in Chalu Rata, he changed the ending of Chalu. So that's again a very crucial departure. So these are like,
even Briffa has done it.
Yeah, everyone, many people would change the text or the ending of the text, because also the narrative style flow of a text, because the clash between or the difference between an image. Say in cinema, if you show a rose, that's a red rose, right? Now, if you write a book and write a red rose, that red rose, as a reader, you making connections. That your red rose is not can be different from my red rose. But when you see a red rose in a film, it's a red rose which someone is giving to someone. And within the mise-en-scene and the narrative flow of the film, the red rose may have some connotative meaning or a particular meaning with the context of the characters. So that's why the differences between the text of Dostoevsky or Benchab and Sharad's adaptation comes. And he's not really adapting; he's just taking threads from it and making it their own. So the exact correlation are because the social milieu went wrong, everything is
true.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah,
hi.
Shail. Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Oh.
Yeah. So thank you so much. This is the first time I'm here. I watched the movie on Event Space before here today. So yeah, I must say that I really did enjoy the long shots. It kind of, it's very, I like that very much. And the minimal usage of music, which made it have much more of an impact when you actually did have the music playing. I especially wanted to say that I'm very curious about the usage of, is it Kuriatam or is it Kathakali? Is it Kuriatam?
Yeah, it's Kuriatam. It's Kuriatam, which is fused with a couple of other forms.
So I wasn't too sure because I think Adit Hussain is trained in Kuriatam, I think.
Yeah, he is.
And, yeah, so you could see that he was trained, facially, and the way he used his body.
Yes.
But I'm not sure the same is true of Archana.
Yes.
I seem to see a fusion of Kathak and Bharatanatyam, perhaps, maybe.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it is a fusion of Kathak.
Yeah, I'm prompted to ask you why you use that in the dream sequence where they emerge as if they are joined at the hip. So that was one part of my observation question. The second one was, I've just watched the movie once, so, it's still very superficial. The Muzaffarabad riots, where the violence is then, basically results in what happens to Anita, I think. So that's violence that's perpetrated on the woman. Yeah, and then in the second instance, you have the woman paying for the male dreams and fantasies by, again, violence being inflicted on her. Yeah. So is that something that you brought in intentionally? I'm very interested in knowing that. So that was the second part. Yeah, so I'll stop.
Okay. 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 So yes. So this is a discussion that my choreographer, who's a very, very well-known Kathak dancer herself, Bombay-based Kathak dancer, and a friend, and I had, and she came up basically with this idea that this whole thing with the joy. The whole idea was to depict that the daughter coming out of the body of the man, in that sense, and at the front part of the man. So she comes out and then she kind of blossoms on her own, and becomes her own, and until she merges finally with one of the two people who created her. So that is the basic idea behind that. And within that, I mean, of course, it started with Kudiyattam because Adil was very nervous, and he did say that he's trained in Kudiyattam, and so is my choreographer Sanjukta Bagh. She practices Kathak, but she's trained in Kudiyattam as well. And so we thought that we should keep it more free flowing, and maybe mix two forms, and have one character having predominantly one form and the other character having predominantly the other form. Also brings out the difference and distinction. So that was our thought behind it, Sheila. That we did. Now, yeah, as far as you're saying, yeah, yes, but I mean, I don't know. It's a very dangerous answer to give. If you say that yeah, I mean, it does. Of course, it was conscious, because all the three stories in the film are dealing with a woman where she is being subjected to violence, and subjugated and subjected by violence, and subjected to violence in different contexts. So I guess, yeah, it was obviously conscious that how, and I kind of enhanced the violence, or the source of violence, or not enhanced, but kind of replaced it with what was there in the original text to what is there, what I thought I would want to do. So these are stories that have been with me for more than 20 years, and at various points in time I have thought of making them, but I couldn't. And finally I brought all three of them together. So yeah, in a way, yes, and I do understand that any act, whether it's war or it's riots, or any kind of other social engineering concept of social engineering, women are at the receiving end. They are at the receiving end a lot more, and there is always a gender perspective to it. But to say that I made a film with a gender perspective would be incorrect. It has happened.
All right. Yeah, I get it. I understand the first one where after the riots, yeah, okay, happens. Yeah, but in the second part where it's Adil Hussain and Archana, I wasn't very sure how why you really wanted that to happen, the violence.
Because see, that's the story. That's the story, Bhoot, where he gets attracted to his daughter. I just give them a cast.
No, but the violence, was that required then?
No, in the story, he kind of falls down and he keeps it open ended. He says that he had the story says that he restricted her now from any activity, from meeting people, from going here, there, everywhere. So I kind of try to interpret it in a way which is more physical, and therefore more visceral, and connected to some things that happened in my suburb in Bombay very recently.
Okay.
So I just thought that I could never fathom that why would this father, lock up his two daughters and then they would come out with like a bunch of bones and father's body rotting on one side. I mean, why would he do that? So I just wanted to physicalize
because
the idea of trapping.
where I'm coming from is because the dream sequence in which you have the Kudiyatam and the Kathak and the Bharatanatyam and the Kathak is at a different level.
Yeah.
Whereas then this violence brings you back down to earth. So you break that kind of illusion and then you come back down. You're forced to come back into reality.
Yes, but also that dance leads you to very very active and very physical act of incestuous proposal.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it may as ethereal or as nice it may seem. It's a dance which is
The purists may not may not
yeah they may not yeah that's true.
Definitely not, but
yes.
Within the film and its its boundaries within that, it does work. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, actually, Sheila brought it up, but for me, that particular sequence seemed to suddenly come in a very different language from the one deployed in the film till then. So much so, in fact, I was watching the film with Tarakeshwar and I was asking him, I mean, what is it doing? Is it, aestheticizing rape? Was my first reaction. And then Tarakeshwar said, not rape, but incest. So it comes in a very different kind of language, which startles you, makes you ask, why is this? Why is this happening? I mean, what really is it trying to say? I noticed that Geeta has raised her hand. Probably it's on the same issue. Please go ahead, Geeta.
Nikhila, it's about the dance sequence also that I had a question. I mean, I looked at it as, of course, it is about incest. That is pretty much clear. But I think the filmmaker, and we are lucky to have him right here so he can answer this. Was it, your way of sanitizing the issue of incest, by projecting it in the form of this dance? Because, incest obviously is very difficult to visually represent. So did you make a very deliberate choice to indicate incest through dance?
Yes and no. Yes, I did to a very great extent, because when I thought of depicting it or projecting it on screen, whatever thoughts that came to my mind, Geeta, were I was very uncomfortable with that. There are certain things I didn't want to do. I didn't want him to see her changing clothes, or her breasts, or her legs, or any such thing. I didn't want that gaze to be there. And also I wanted to, so I got this thing, and it kind of helped me in contextualizing it. So it kind of gave me extra tools to contextualize it in a larger mythical discourse. That's one thing. And also it kind of helps me in giving the character a justification, because something the gods have done. I mean, so it kind of served many purposes to me at the same time, and it solved primarily, yes, it solved my problem of articulating it on screen. Because unless you do it well, and I'm not saying that, but there are these many ways you can do it, and how not to do it. And when the solution that I got, I just thought it added to the layers of the whole premise that the story I have given the story. So yes, that is where it was. And in terms of language, as Nikhila said, being pointed out, as Monish also pointed out, actually, I have many kind of, so to say, texts in the film. I don't stick to one text. There is present day documentary, there is television, there is a soap opera on the soundtrack. There is khayal gaiki, little note. There is largely the music is by a Drupad exponent. and the vocals in the end are by the music director. There is this other documentary which is made by the legendary Sukhdev called 9 Months to Freedom on Bangladesh. So it is taking from various traditions. So when I was writing the film, Nikhila, I was not restricting myself ki okay, out here the language will change. Let it change. As long as it becomes a part of my larger the film picture, I'm okay with it, and that's how I approached. But in terms of looking at continuity of form, as Monish said, there also it seems that it's like a single long take, where actually there are about 3 to 4 cuts. But they're like really long,
very functional cuts.
Very functional cuts, but they're again long and languid.
Very long.
But yes, it disrupts the visual on the screen, and it kind of sticks out. In fact, there's another part, if you ask me honestly, that disrupts is the meeting place of the two play, because in terms of the color, in terms of the texture and everything, it is very different from the rest of the parts of the city that I have shown. So yeah, that is what it is there.
Another question I had, Sharad, I mean, it's not any great consequence. I was just curious about the surname Muslim that you gave for Anita. Is it used?
That's a real life character, Geeta.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Tarakeshwar, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sharad. The way you tried to articulate your practice of quote unquote borrowing from different sources, including the two stories, which everybody is talking as adaptation. So, being a translation studies scholar, I found some of your articulations quite interesting. Here, they come not as adaptation in the classical sense or translation in the traditional sense, but as citation, quotation. So it is not that you're taking the entire thing as it is, but you're citing them. But more than that, as you said, you're also trying to recontextualize it. So some of the things that you're changing is to suit the context in which you are planting that seed again. That is one point. And the second one is these things that we are conscious of taking from others. But if you are making it in a language, whether it is a cinematic language or the natural language that we speak, we owe it to many people who have fashioned this language over a period of time. So whenever I'm speaking, it is not that it is I who is speaking, but I owe my debt to all those people who have fashioned this language. So that awareness is not actually there. But when we are conscious about where it is coming from, then we cite it. So in that sense, you are citing your sources, which you are conscious of it. So in that sense, it's more like a citational practice, but you're not actually indebted to them. You are indebted to a mood that you would like to express, or something that is haunting you. You want to give it a shape to it, either in a cinematic language. When you're trying to give a shape to it, whatever the idiom that you're trying to find, wherever it comes from, you are taking it to give a shape to the emotion or the mood or the concerns that are your experience, whatever it is. So in that sense, it's more a kind of trying to search for a right idiom to express what you are feeling. It's more than the other kinds of films where you know what you want to say and you want to convey it to a particular kind of audience. So it's more than I know, but I would like to convey it to these people in this way than to search for what is haunting me, a kind of language. So in that sense, there's a lot of experiment in this, and you are also trying to find a perfect form for what you're trying to do. So you're going in search of the forms too, whether it could be music, whether it could be literature, whether it could be visuals, whether it could be in terms of mode of representation, whether realistic or something else. So in that sense, it's quite an experimental movie. And the last point I would like to stress upon is that, so the movie is talking about the personal relationship, the relationship between certain characters in the narrative. And this also gets overlapped to community relationships, and it also gets overlapped to textual relationships, whatever that you are taking. What kind of relationship we have with each other, to whatever relationship as community we have with each other, and what relation your film has with a certain text that you are citing. So this I would call as translation relationship. So that is quite interesting. And the sources, we don't have to be apologetic, but in the traditional literary analysis, we always think that literary texts are sacrosanct, and somebody who are using it have to be faithful to them. So always the yardstick is to how far you have adhered to it. But here it is not like that, because some of the idioms or some of the expressions, though they're fashioned by individuals, over a period of time, they become collective pools. So now the question is, you draw from this collective repertoire, which is already there. If we are conscious, we cite them. If we are not conscious, we don't cite them. But how well we use it to express what we want to express now. So it's more like what we have even in Indian aesthetics, Kavi Samaya. Certain expressions become a part of the larger pool. So we draw from it to say what we want to say now. So if you are recontextualizing these sources in the present day UP context, in a particular political context, then it is necessary for you to undertake all these experiments. That's what I think. And the way you try to explain your practice in this particular filmmaking was also quite interesting. And thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Tarkishore. Thank you for helping me articulate, and you articulated so well, and I think you've hit the nail on its head. It's absolutely right. I completely agree with you, and I think you've completely got the film, the way it is supposed to be taken, and I'm really obliged and grateful to you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who wants to speak? Yes, Sanjay, please go ahead.
Yeah, after Tarakeshwar, I still have some few words to say, because I always get some food for thought after he speaks. So I was waiting for it. So you have I like this idea of citation, because I was just wondering whether if the director had not used, Sharad had not used the names of these three stories, had we identified still whether we would have identified these three stories or not. So I think personally that Booth and the Dream of a Ridiculous Man would not have been identified, but White Nights, the story is very dominant, and somehow I feel that it could have been identified. But anyway, he has mentioned these all three stories. And when it comes to the use of citation, one of the examples I find is like the scene which is like paying a tribute to the scene of Hiroshima Mon Amour of Alain René. So when she says that you don't know anything about the riot, he says that I know about the riots. No, you don't know anything about the riots. So there it was kind of, I can call it an example of citation, as using the term of Roland Barthes, who says that literary texts are a tissue of quotations, tissue of citations. So in that sense. Another one, I was thinking about the presentation of Monish when he says that there are certain things which are suggested in the films. So I thought of this, the very first sequence where Gulmohar says that I am not from this city, and then he also talks about this is the city of Majaz. So there, like, it reminds us of like the Nazm which was written by Majaz, like Shahar ki baat aur main nashad o nakara firun. So I don't know whether jagmagati jagti sadkon pe awara firun, गैर की बस्ती है कब तक दर बदर मारा फिरूं, ऐ गमे दिल क्या करूं, ऐ वहशते दिल क्या करूं. So was it like in your mind, like consciously, or I just wanted to know? But it's very interesting because that reminds us of that. People, those who have heard of his Sher Nazm, and they can identify, okay, this is the situation of the character. Yeah.
Yes, I was. I fortunately, thanks to my father, I've had huge access to Urdu poetry and Urdu poets. So I mean that's how I know Majaz, through my father, or Faiz, or Firaq, or all of these people. I know him because my dad is a connoisseur and he knew their works by heart. So yes, you're absolutely right. It is conscious, and it's certainly conscious, except that instead of making it the father's city, I made it the mother's city. But I've got it from my father.
Okay. Okay, Geeta, please go ahead.
Yeah. Talking of citations, I think the ending of the film, I know I thought cross-reference the ending of Mahesh Bhatt's Arth, where the last scene is of Shabana Azmi walking away with the child, the child of the maid. And so somehow, I was reminded of that ending when I watched the ending of your film as well.
Okay, it's basically, yeah. Okay, I mean, thank you for that's very flattering. But yes, I mean, it's of course it's coming to terms with his own guilt. Of course, that is there. It's also very interestingly, as Nikhila rightly pointed out, it's not a realistic film, but it's also a little homage to neorealism, where children were so important. So it again, I'm a split personality, so is my film, I guess.
I think, Sharad, your ending also is in a way. It's very similar to the endings of the story itself and how it was cinematically
interpreted,
both by Visconti and by Bresson.
Yeah.
And by Bresson, that camera movement and meeting, going to meet and then departing and all.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean thematically you might say it's like Earth, but cinematically it's very close and interpretation in the Visconti-Bresson fashion.
Yeah, but I think Geeta is referring to the last shot of the film.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, anyone else who wants to say anything about the film? Vandana, Vandana is here. Would you like to say anything about the film, Vandana? Okay. Yeah, if there's nothing else to add, I think we have come to the end of the discussion of this really engaging film. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining in the discussion. Jayanto, you unmuted. Do you want to say anything?
I just want to say thank you.
Okay.
For this evening.
Okay. So thank you all for joining in the discussion. Thank you, Monish, for laying out all the issues relating to the film. And Sharad for articulating with such expansiveness your practice. It's very rare for filmmakers to reflect upon their practice and articulate it in the way that you have done. So we're really fortunate to have listened to you. Thank you all for joining the discussion tonight. And if you have found it interesting, you're welcome to join the discussions every week from in April. We have a set of East European films which we will be discussing. Maybe Geeta can tell us a little bit more about them. Thanks all of you for joining. Have a very good night. Yes, Sharad, please.
Yeah, before that, I would like to thank you, Nicola, TFO. I would like to thank Monish, and I would like to thank each one of you who are present here so late in the night and still engaging in some very, very challenging discussion, observations, and questions. It will help me keep me on my toes and rooted to the ground for future works.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you.
You,
It's a pleasure.
Sharad.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
It's been a very illuminating and very nice discussion. And I hope it works.
Thank you. Yeah, Geeta, do you want to just say a little bit about next week's films?
Yes, because East European films are definitely very interesting.
Yeah, we have not yet, finalized the films as such, but we will be having 2 Romanian films. The other 2 we are not very sure of, and this is going to be, it's going to be initiated. The discussion is going to be initiated by a professor from the University of Pittsburgh, Irina Lovenscu. So as of now, we don't have the exact set of films, but we will be putting it up on our Facebook page very soon.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Especially if they're from the
Romanian, yeah.
New wave. Very fascinating film. Very fascinating. Very vibrant. Very contemporary.
So thank you all once again, and have a very good night and a good week ahead. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night,
everybody.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night.